Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with my review for Season 2, Episode 2 of Killing Eve. Alright, so I do want to apologize just right off the bat for this one being a couple days late. So I did actually watch the episode on Sunday, but I've just been very busy the last few days and just finally getting around to the review now. But yeah, I'm going to be doing the reviews week to week, so hopefully they'll be Mondays from now on or Sundays even, and we'll have to see. But I did get the chance to see the premiere a little bit early, so that's why that review was out a bit early. But anyways, I really enjoyed this episode a little bit more than last one. I thought there was a little bit more, material in this one. Last one was kind of just getting us caught up and kind of tying up those knots that were left for us in the season 1 finale. But this episode, I felt like made a lot of progression towards the new story that we're going to see in season 2. And there were a lot of parts that I really enjoyed. There was one at the very end. Of course, I'm going to talk about that, which I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. But anyway, so we'll talk about that. Of course, we'll go through a recap here of the episode, a pretty detailed recap. Then my rating, favorite character, and then some more overall thoughts of the episode and what we might see next week. Of course, with the little next week promo that we got at the end of the episode, which I actually really enjoy, by the way. Those are actually really great to kind of see what to expect right in the next week, and not every show does that, I feel, so I do really enjoy that as well. So anyways, love to hear your guys' thoughts on this episode. What did you think of it? What do you think of it compared to last episode? And where do you think we're gonna go, especially with that ending? What did you think of the ending to this one as well? Love to hear your guys' thoughts as always. If you enjoyed the review, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Would really appreciate it as always. So let's get into the recap here without any further ado. So we start off this one with Villanelle arriving with the family in their car, right? They get back home, and all of a sudden, right, they have this girl in the back. It was interesting, though, how I feel like this maybe is a little bit of a writing issue, because didn't they have all the luggage in there? So when they get home, when they go to the trunk to get out all the luggage that was in there, that was supposed to be in there, but maybe they were going into the house first with the kids, and then they're going to come back out to get the luggage. Maybe right, but anyway, so she gets out of the van there, and I loved it how the little girl who was on her dad's shoulder was able to see Villanelle, and Villanelle, like, told her to be quiet about it, right? And that was the little kind of visual that we saw in the trailer for this season. So there is that. I thought it would be a little bit more of a eerie kind of, creepy scene with Villanelle killing somebody, but it still worked out pretty well. So I like that. So we see that she sneaks out, right, to a laundromat and then to a supermarket. So we see at the very beginning here, she's kind of going on this journey, if you will, a very small journey, right, but kind of this journey on, trying to find somebody, trying to get a little bit of help. Of course, now kind of on the run, I guess, if you will, right, from this whole hospital scene where she killed this boy. And so obviously, she's just kind of looking for somewhere to stay, first of all, but then she also goes to the laundromat to get her clothes cleaned as well, that she takes from the hospital, right? So anyway, so she goes to the supermarket then, again, emphasizing this vulnerable state that she's in. I forgot to mention that, but, right, the whole way through this episode, very, very good job of showing that, how again, we have never seen Villanelle, I don't think, we've never seen Villanelle this kind of vulnerable and this desperate at all before. And so I really do like what they're doing here with the beginning of this season and showing us a whole different Villanelle and how she would act in those situations that we haven't seen her in before. So I do really enjoy that, right? So anyways, so obviously she's still feeling the injuries as well, mainly, obviously her face visually, but mainly, of course, the stab wound on her torso, right, or her stomach, right? So anyways, so she meets a man at the supermarket, basically feeds him, no pun intended, but and feeds him a story about helping her escape from her stepfather who assaulted her, right? And she points to this random guy outside, and of course we know she is absolutely great at doing this because of that psychopathic psychopathic tendencies that she has, of course. She's such a good liar, right? And she's even kind of I would say kind of convinced Eve of that, but Eve is kind of buying into it even as they met in season 1. So anyways, so we know she's a good liar. She plays off a good lie here. And so he decides to help her and offers her the spare room at his house, right? So that she can come back with him and stay in his spare room. Wow, right? Not a good idea right off the bat. You know this guy is most likely going to die. It was just a matter of time, right? So anyways, so we see play out a little bit at the very beginning here while at his house. Very quickly develops a relationship with Villanelle. Almost similar to his dolls. That's the way I saw this, and I thought, just wanting to constantly care for her, keep her well kept as he brushes her messy hair and stuff like that. So to me, the dolls were really a symbolism of how he it treats Villanelle in this episode. That was just my opinion on that one, because obviously the dolls are kind of in there to be a little bit creepy, but I also felt like they had a little bit more meaning in this one. And so in a way, I think Villanelle was kind of his doll, throughout these scenes here and throughout the developing story. But maybe that's looking too much into it. I don't know. But anyways, so we see Eve arrives at her new job working for Carolyn again. So this was, this was pretty nice. As we know that Carolyn hired her again, right? Hired her back after she just got fired in the finale. Hired her back last episode, right? So she's hired as an expert on female assassins. That's the kind of title, right, that Carolyn gives to her. And we know that that's pretty true, right? That's a pretty accurate thing. So anyway, so she meets the team with Kenny on it. Kenny is back, of course, Carolyn's son, from season 1. So we did not see him last episode, so I am really happy that we see him in this one. So Kenny is back and he is on the team, but no Elena. So she's not on this new team. And they say very quickly, worried about taking the job that, she was afraid to die or something like that. And they just play it off. So to me, I'm sorry, but I was disappointed by this. I thought this was a lazy explanation to just write her character off. I think that the actress will not be in this season. I know her last name is Baptiste, but I forget the rest of it. I think it's a three-word name, right? Kind of a hyphenated first name, but anyways, I don't think she will be in this season at all because of other projects, I guess. And so it's just kind of I don't know, I just thought it was kind of a lazy way of writing her character off. You could have had a little bit more of a story there, but it's just very quickly, oh, she was afraid to die. Okay, she's gone, right? And she was such a big part of season 1, and one of my favorite characters of season 1, always kind of having that comedic relief with Eve, and that was such a great part of it. So I'm hoping that this new girl, right, so this comes into this. So 2 new characters are introduced. We get Hugo and this other woman. I forget her name, but this other woman. So I'm wondering then if they're going to make this other woman kind of transform into what Elena was for Eve, and kind of that partnership, that, comedy, kind of playing off each other type of thing. So I hope that's what we will see, but we'll have to see. And kind of, we'll have to see as the season goes on. And maybe Elena may actually come back. I'm not completely sure on that, but that is my impression as of now. So anyways, we get welcome to MI6, right? So welcome back. I thought that was really great. So then Eve gives them a presentation on Villanelle and her past killings. And in this presentation, you see that she is like her obsession, right? And I thought this is actually really good how she starts describing Villanelle's abilities, and it's just like a long list of everything, and she just keeps going and going and going, and Kenny kind of understands. We see his face, he understands, but the other 2 new characters like, what is this woman saying, right? Like, how does she know her so well? So anyways, and then also Eve does tell Kenny here about what happened with Villanelle. So that was also an interesting one. Maybe they're kind of developing that relationship a bit more in this season to substitute for Elena too. So that's a possibility. Anyways, so basically in this presentation, recapping the season 1 deaths of Frank, Bill, and Constantine. Constantine is a little bit of a foreshadowing actually in this scene for a little bit later, right? So then we see Eve later finds out from a search online about the murder of the young boy at the hospital by Villanelle. So she sees the picture of the crime scene where a bitten apple lays in his hand, in the boy's dead hand, right? So Villanelle, after snapping his neck, after killing him, put this apple in his hand, right? And so then we see that she searches up very quickly, and it actually connects to Eve, right, and the apple in the famous artwork and these the biblical stories, and so right away, right, we see the crime scene was a message to Eve from Villanelle. So pretty crazy stuff there, right? So maybe that's why Villanelle killed the boy as well. Like, probably not the only reason, but I still believe that she actually did kind of do it out of, kind of putting him down, if you will, which is obviously, inherently wrong. But anyways, in those circumstances, but I think that was kind of her mindset. But then also, maybe it was to be noticed by Eve and to get her attention, right? To get some attention from her. So I really like this scene, explained a little bit more, and also, again, making that constant connection with Eve and her kind of fueling her obsession with Villanelle. So I really like that kind of discovery there. So we see Carolyn and Eve go to the house of the family of Alistair Peel, who is the dead guy who was exhumed last episode because they thought Villanelle was responsible for his death instead of a heart attack, which was the original kind of diagnosis of his death, right? So anyway, so they go to this house to establish that the person who killed him was not Villanelle, as Eve figured out before, as it was a discreet murder, right? It wasn't a big kind of exactly like this hospital scene where a bitten apple was there, right? There was nothing there that kind of bragged about the killing or kind of pointed to Eve's typical way of doing things, and so Villanelle, Eve quickly figures this out, right? And so they go to the house. The two children say they do not recognize Villanelle. They show a picture of her, and thus Eve determines it is a new girl. That's how she puts it. It is a new girl. So she is excited. We see her so excited about how this is a new girl that she's now going to be following, where maybe then she can get a little bit distracted from Villanelle, but then she also says Villanelle will be furious about the new girl, right? And so she just likes the fact that Villanelle is going to be jealous now, and probably, a little bit mad, right? She's going to be furious about this new development. So anyways, so then as Eve describes her, we see, describes a new girl, right? What position she would be in, what abilities she would have, and all this. We see then an overlay of a cleaning lady switching out coffee cups of an office worker in some office. We don't even know where it is, I don't think. That ends up killing him instantly, right? Almost instantly. He drinks the coffee, kills him, and we don't see her face, right? We don't see her face, but we do kind of see the general situation, and it's pretty much exactly what Eve is describing to us to Carolyn in that scene. So is this the new girl, or was this just an example of someone doing this, right, that fit the description? I think it is the new girl, but we'll have to see how it goes, and we'll have to see where they take that new storyline. I really like this kind of new introduction, because obviously Villanelle and Eve gets old, right? And for some people it already has gotten old, so, I definitely understand that they're building some new stories here, and maybe even introducing a new girl, which is going to kind of vie for Eve's attention. So it's going to be interesting. Anyways, so then we see as Villanelle begins to realize that Julian might be up to something with the house. No windows open in the house. She starts to feel a little bit trapped in here. Also, his mom with dementia tells him that, he means well or something like that, right? So she kind of gets a little bit paranoid here at what could happen, right? And maybe he's, using her for something, right? We don't know, right? But the fact that she can't escape and that she can't even open the windows is obviously, causing that paranoia for her. So she tries finding a kitchen knife to stab him with. She even tells him what she wants it for. I thought that was a really kind of funny scene. Of course, he has no idea that she's being serious. But anyway, so then he tells her that there's no sharp knives in the whole house, right? So she's not going to find a sharp knife that can stab him, pretty much, right? So then she tries using the phone to contact someone to help her, which she is hung up on, which that comes back very shortly in the episode, but it does seem like that she called kind of her, the 12, I guess, or that line, the line to the people who she works for to come and get her, to help her, but she's very quickly hung up on when she tells them her name. So that doesn't work. So then she tries to phone Eve. Crazy stuff, right? So she tries to phone Eve, but the phone number to MI6 will not connect, and she screams into the phone, right? She just screams into the phone. I forget exactly what she said, or something like pick up or something like that. Holy shit, pick up, something like that. But anyway, so she screams into the phone, right, and she can't get to Eve. So then Julian comes in and finds the phone off the receiver and knows what Villanelle did. So he takes it off the wall and carries it out. So he, again, like, why would he be taking away this phone if he wasn't up to something, right? Why wouldn't he let Villanelle make a call? So obviously this is developing, right? So, meanwhile, then we see Carolyn back with Eve gets the recording of Villanelle's voice on the phone and plays it back to Eve. So now, now Carolyn knows that Villanelle is still alive, and she doesn't necessarily know that Eve lied to her. Not yet. I don't think that establishes that. But she does know that Villanelle is alive now. And obviously, Eve kind of finds out too for the first time, as she has been really kind of guessing herself and wondering if she actually made it after she stabbed her, right? So then we see that Julian questions Villanelle about who was on the phone, seems very angry that he's being used by her, and that she's putting, all she's doing is putting on an act this whole time, right? Just to use him to help her and to have a place to live, right? So, which is pretty much true. I mean, she has been putting on an act this whole time, and she has been using him. But the way that he says it actually comes off really kind of creepy, right? It sounds like he wants like sex or something in exchange, something like that. Now, again, we don't know if he, like the mom said, he had good intentions or something like that. But I don't know, the way this whole played out, it really kind of was, you could interpret it both ways, I think, would be fair. But anyways, so she lies again to him, right? Gets him to buy it for just a moment, and then she strikes, right? And we see this with Villanelle all the time in a lot of her kills, where she gets the person really close and starting to feel for her, and then she goes for it, right? And then she kills him, right? So she kicks him in the face and then tries to get away. Julian's able to grab her leg and drags her to the floor, pretty much, right? And then basically he hits her then in the stab wound and makes her, start bleeding, which is, really the only way to get Villanelle right now is to hit that stab wound where she's weak. Kind of like her Achilles heel, if you will, right now. And so obviously that kind of gets her. And so he's able to gain control then and start choking her on the ground. Again, we've never seen this before. Villanelle's never struggled this much for a kill. So anyway, so she knocks him off with a small little trophy or a statue or something like that. And tries leaving, but can't get out the door. She can't unlock the door in time. And so after she struggles for a moment, she finds a sharp needle and stabs Julian in the side of the neck. Just a brutal death right here, making him bleed out very quickly, though, so it wasn't a very long death, but stabs him in the side of the neck, and he just starts bleeding out, and he dies. And of course, the way he dies, with kind of his face tilted up, obviously plays a big part, and his mouth open, plays a big part in the next thing. So then we see Villanelle says, "This is what you get, Julian," right? And she kills him. She gets some satisfaction out of it for sure, right? And again, like I said, we've never seen her struggle this much for a kill. And again, this just shows how vulnerable she is. Also, I would say that I feel bad for him, but I also don't. Again, it was very weird how they set this character up in Julian. And, I think you could think about it either way. Like I said, multiple ways to interpret what he actually was and what his intentions were. But obviously, Villanelle, very satisfied in finally, killing him and being able to get that strength back in the situation. And I think that's a big thing for her. She doesn't like being vulnerable, right? She never is. So it's definitely a different situation for her. So then even Carolyn say they are tracking the call, right? They're tracking Villanelle's voice, where she called from, and the authorities have been warned. So they're very close to finding out where she was when she made the call, and they're on their way there. So meanwhile, Villanelle finally gets out of the house, and a car is parked on the street, and flashes its lights at her. I love the little scene where the mom comes out and just starts walking away, and Villanelle gives her that look. Again, Jodie Comer's facial expressions are just awesome, like steals the show. Just really, really funny stuff. So anyways, I love those, right? Those are pretty awesome stuff. So anyways, so she gets out of the house, right? So that car flashes her lights at her. So she goes to the car and gets in and is introduced to her new handler, right? A new handler. We saw in season 1 when she got a new handler, she just shot the guy, right? But in this situation, again, a little bit more vulnerable. So she says, I thought I was fired. And he says, circumstances have changed. This is exactly what Carolyn said, by the way. So kind of a parallel, said to Eve, right? So kind of a parallel there with Eve and Carolyn, and then also Villanelle getting rehired as this new handler kind of takes her on again. So she tells him no thanks, right? She doesn't want to do it again, but he doesn't take no for an answer, right? He doesn't take that. He's not there, right, for her to just say no thanks and walk out of the car. So he says that she can no longer do whatever she wants and that she is on a very tight leash from now on. So he locks Villanelle in the car and they leave. So also we see that he actually, puts her, I think chokes her, right? Starts choking her against the car window. So right away showing that strength. And we know that Villanelle may actually have been able to take him out if she wasn't injured in that scene, and maybe she would have. But again, vulnerable, right? So we have to understand that. So anyway, so just as they head off, my favorite part of the episode, just as they are heading off in the car, Eve and Carolyn pull up to the scene and her handler drive right by them. Oh, this is just great. Again, in season 1, they did a great job of this, how Villanelle was always actually pretty close to Eve, but Eve never realized. And again, in this, it's such a good job of doing this because us viewers are like waiting on the edge of our seats to see when these two meet again. Every time they meet, something huge happens, right? And so we're waiting and waiting, and then it actually happens, but Eve doesn't realize it. So it really is great the way they do this. So anyways, Eve doesn't see her, as she doesn't look at the vehicle. She's just looking kind of straight forward and worried about the scene, right? And getting to the right house, I guess. And I was like, what? Like, why? Just look at the vehicle, right? It's kind of frustrating, actually, because there would have been feds there. They probably could have got Villanelle arrested right there and catch her. And just such a missed opportunity. But anyways, then we see Villanelle trying to figure out what she just saw, right? Maybe thought she was imagining things, even, that she just saw Eve through the window. Because, of course, we know she's kind of injured, kind of vulnerable, kind of in this, I wouldn't say state or something like that, but she obviously, to see Eve there would be a really big surprise. So she's kind of like, what, did I just see Eve, right? Like that kind of thing. So I did really enjoy that as well. And again, her facial expressions were just great. She's like, just like, what? All right, like, what did I just see? So anyways, that was really great. And of course, Eve, none the wiser, because she has no idea that Villanelle just drove past. So, and we see as Eve goes into the crime scene, she knows right away that Villanelle was behind it. We see a toilet brush placed in the man's, in Julian's mouth there. Of course, right? Again, the apple, the toilet brush, but this other one was not like that. And so that's the way she differentiated it. So, obviously, she knows right away that Villanelle was behind this one and that, she was responsible. So she tells Carolyn that she's gone and they must have missed her, right? Yeah, she just drove by you, right? So, again, kind of frustrating, right, for us, but Eve just did not see her. So, Carolyn says that she needs to get Eve some protection. Yeah, that would be a good idea, right? But I have a feeling that Eve isn't really out to kill her, necessarily, right? Because she called her girlfriend and stuff like that. So, we'll have to see how that plays out. But, yeah, that would be a good idea to get Eve some protection. Anyway, so then, at the end of the episode here, Carolyn tells Eve there's someone they need to speak to about this. She takes Eve to her place, and they walk in the living room, and sitting on the couch is Constantine. Wow, right? This is crazy. Eve, just as shocked as we are. That face from Sandra Oh was really great. The way that was all acted, and even Constantine saying, hello, Eve. Like, just a really awesome little, it just lasts for about 20 seconds, but such a really great exchange there. He is still alive, right? So, just briefly, I want to talk about this. So, I don't know how I feel about it. I'd love to get your thoughts, I guess, on this one. Constantine is still alive, and he is coming back. So, I feel like it would be more meaningful if they kept him dead. Just because that was such a meaningful death, how Villanelle was able to just kill him just like that, even though he meant so much to her, and kill him in front of in front of his daughter too. So I just feel like it would have been more meaningful if they kept him dead, but I guess we'll see, right? I guess we'll see what part he plays in season 2. What I hate, though, what I will hate, is if they bring him back just to die 2 episodes later. Like, if they're bringing him back, he's got to be a main character now, and he's got to be in for the long haul, right? Because you can't have this character back. You can't bring him back and then kill him off right away. And that's what I'm worried they might do here. A lot of shows tend to do that, and I don't know why. But I do have some faith. I love Killing Eve, the show, and I feel like season 1 was very original in the way they did things. So I don't think they will do that, but I'm just saying, just to point that out, I'm a little bit worried. But anyways, it is great to see him again. Obviously a lovable character, one of my favorite characters from season 1. So we'll have to see what part he plays. I guess that's my biggest thing is, right now, I just don't know how I feel. But in the coming episodes, we'll see. But anyways, obviously a shocking ending, and it was really great. Again, a little bit of foreshadowing throughout this episode. They mentioned him another time throughout the episode again. So, you know, if you really paid attention, you maybe could have predicted it at the end. So, again, though, I will say the ending seemed a little bit abrupt as well. They go from this crime scene, all of a sudden they're at her house, and there's Constantine. So I just felt like they kind of tried to, include it in episode 2, but they just kind of ran out of time, and they just had to put it in there at the end. So to me, I thought it would be a little bit more effective. It maybe played out a little bit better, but it is what it is, and I'm assuming that to start off next episode, we'll get an entire scene explaining exactly what happened, right? Because Constantine has a lot of explaining, and Carolyn have a lot of explaining to do because he's still alive. So anyways, a shocking end of the episode there nonetheless. Alright, so to end things off here, my rating for the episode, I'm going to give it a 4.6 out of 5, so slightly better than last episode. Again, similar kind of slow pace throughout this one as the premiere. Again, there was a lot of slow-paced episodes, though, in season 1, right? I mean, we're kind of just the recency bias of that big finale. Obviously, we're kind of expecting huge things, but we have to remember, I mean, this is the beginning of a season. They're setting things up again, kind of getting us back into this. And episode 1, I felt like really, really kind of just connected all the dots from the season 1 finale. I mean, I believe this episode was more of the first episode of season 2, if you will. So anyways, again, slow pacing, but I feel like it works so well with these characters and the writing. So, again, I'm fine with the slow pacing, but again, I do like the season 1 finale, and that's an awesome episode too. So, I take what you can get, I guess, right? So new characters introduced. I love this. I said this last episode. If, Bill's been gone for a while, but you're going to have Bill out. Elena's not coming back now, as we know. Constantine was dead. You need some new characters, and I do really like the Hugo character that was introduced. The woman, on the other hand, didn't have as much of a part, so I'll have to see if she even remains a significant character in the season, but I did like the new introductions. So the big twist at the end, of course, very shocking, and I like that Killing Eve does that. They did that in season 1 a little bit. Of course, the death of Bill kind of came out of nowhere for most of us. For season 1, even me, and I didn't even watch it live, and that was like, I hadn't even heard about that. So anyways, big twist, and I love that they are continuing to do these twists in the show. I will say the humor is not landing as well so far this season for me, and that's just me. Maybe for you guys it is. I love the stuff with Villanelle, but the humor with Eve seems a little contrived at times in this season, where I did not feel that at all in season 1. And even with Villanelle, like, it's not just Eve, but some of this stuff, especially Carolyn and Eve, to me, feels a little bit contrived so far. But anyways, we'll have to see how it plays out. Hopefully it gets a little bit better, but that's just an observation for me. And the humor was such a great part of season 1. So to me, it is actually something notable to mention that it's not working as well. But again, it's a new showrunner, right? Some new writers. So, you understand it, right? I think you ultimately understand it. So great to see Villanelle and Eve almost meeting again. I already mentioned that, but it's always great to see these two in the proximity of each other, and they have no idea, or at least Eve has no idea that they are, right? That they are that close. So I do really like those moments in the show as well. But anyways, my favorite character for this one, I went with Villanelle last week, so I'll go with Eve this week, played by Sandra Oh. Obviously, Sandro taking the Emmy, or not taking home the Emmy. I think she won Golden Globe, but she was nominated for the Emmy, and she's awesome, right? I will say I think Jodie Comer is equal or maybe even better because of the character she plays and obviously her amazing acting ability. But Sandro was obviously great too. I really did like Eve in this episode. She also had a scene with Nico, her husband there. And I like the way that played out too. Her getting this new job at MI6. Of course, this introduction of this new girl that maybe she's going to be tracking now. And Constantine's back, so we'll have to see how that all plays into it as well. But yeah, really looking forward to the rest of the season, guys. I believe eight episodes again, so 6 more episodes to go. We're already a quarter of the way through. Crazy stuff. But anyways, thank you so much for watching this review, guys. I do really appreciate it. And again, let me know what you guys thought of this episode and that insane ending. Love to hear your guys' thoughts as always. But anyways, guys, that'll just about do it. We'll see you next week for Killing Eve Season 2, Episode 3. Looks to be a pretty damn good episode. Hopefully the pacing maybe picks up a little bit, and we'll see some more stuff happen. And, of course, explanation with Constantine. So, we're looking forward to it. Thank you guys so much for watching once again, and we'll see you next week.
There's something about the way you are that makes me